Don't stop ever. Chapter 1. Ideas. A constant ride of eternal vitality. What I feel and do every day is all I own, a short ride of finite time, and I ain't gonna let the indoctrinating forces of society get a piece of me to waste my life chasing these illusions that the system has set up for us. As a kid growing up, I didn't care about the phony hype of professional sports, what kind of car anybody drove. They're all hunks of metal to me. What was supposedly cool on TV, who the latest big, bad manufactured pop stars supposedly were. I wanted substance in my life, a feeling within that I was accessing what was in my own independent, unique spirit as intensely and solidly as I could within my particular ride of the human condition the way I was created. Even the divine power of religion couldn't stop me from being true to myself, partially because of all the hypocrisy that is rampant within most people claiming to be religious. I felt there was something else for me in my life. I didn't discover it until I started living freely, realized I had an inner pulse of life away from the system, and the only way I could constantly feel good was to live by it and honor it every single day of my life. The goal in life for people like me is to live in a higher, more euphoric and transcendent state of consciousness than normal, everyday reality as much as I can, and I do it generally by thinking about it, releasing large amounts of intense inspired physical, creative, and intellectual energy, relishing in activities that I perceive to be aesthetically pleasing, trying to be as relaxed as possible, pursuing hedonism for its own sake, seeking out interesting and meaningful emotional connections with people and pets, in essence, having fun, enjoying my life for what it is, pure and clear, away from all those agendas out there masquerading as cool, glittery, and successful. In order to be an enlightened free spirit, you have to earn your self-respect every single day of your life by doing whatever it is that you feel you must from within yourself, provided you're free enough to know what's really in there as opposed to being clouded over by all the crap from the outside world. You have to do what inspires you and makes you feel good with some kind of intense gusto, kinda like you took your life for a good ride today and purged all that natural potential energy inside on all cylinders, not just the productive, pro-social, and ambitious, but also the aesthetic, hedonistic, esoteric, primal, psychedelic, and mystical. This is the only way you're gonna really feel great about your life, as opposed to the generic standard of feeling good out there, which seems to be a media-saturated, pop culture, materialistic, comfortable kind of complacency indoctrinated into most of us about what's cool, happening, and successful. In a repressed society such as ours, food replaces the main natural sources of pleasure, which are sex and the pursuit of euphoric highs. You have to figure out a way to be useful to other people by either helping, inspiring, or amusing them somehow in order to earn you your cash. It's a process of necessarily constantly releasing your three major energies in a fluctuating mix. Inspired, mostly physical, intellectual, creative. Hedonistic, aesthetic. Loving, affectionate. Your qualitative experience of life only goes up through inspired, intense actions from the soul when you're consciously following an inner standard you live by. The bottom line is that life is a continuous, constantly flowing fluid entity. It doesn't matter what you achieve or how great or bad any one moment in time is, life goes on. Life is a fluid commodity that must be always used up through intense inspired living in order to constantly hold onto a transcendent feeling of eternal vitality. A free individual tries to reach his or limits in what they want and relishes in all of life's possible experiences, the tough, hard, relaxing, sensual, fun, romantic, loving, transcendent, mystical, and psychedelic, anything that comes from within oneself as opposed to being led by the forces of cultural indoctrination. Be good to yourself in all the major ways. Find the meaning in your soul. Live for your inspired sense of beauty and destiny. Pursue love if you want. Relish in your own version of hedonistic pleasures. Find out what it takes to keep you feeling good in a transcendent kind of way day after day. Use the inherent goodness and power I presume you feel in your soul to earn a living for yourself and be a kind and understanding citizen. Don't force it. It has to come naturally from your essence, from your true feelings within yourself, otherwise it's not real, It's a fake kind of civility, production, achievement, ambition, or goodness created by the conventional rules of society. A perfect, transcendent moment. We all have an insular Tahiti of beauty, truth, lust, love, perfection, and glory hidden away deep within our souls. The enlightened free spirits consciously try to live in this zone of transcendence by constantly purging their bodily, aesthetic, and spiritual energies as intensely as they can. Most people get a wisp of a perfect, transcendent moment here and there where they feel tapped into their eternal, divine souls, but quickly bury it away because to acknowledge it would be to acknowledge that they have failed at their lives so far by not following what they really feel in their deepest cores, which is what a perfect moment is, seeing and feeling yourself as you really are in your purest essence, then striving to live by it. The world cannot give you much. You have to create it for yourself day by day. I learned this the long way around. I went out into the world to experience every type of geographic location, person, and experience I could within the means I had, looking for the answers to life, specifically what must I do to be happy and feel right about myself as opposed to what the world defines for me as happiness and success. In the process, I saw that I was a brainwashed clone like just about everybody around me, even though pretty well on one will ever admit to it. At the end of my long apprenticeship out in the world, which took approximately 15 years, I came back to me in my essence as an individual. The big difference between me as a young, naive guy with no knowledge or experience of the real world to me as an older, cynical guy who had been there, done that for just about everything the world holds up as cool, fun, off the hook or enlightening, is that I got it all out of my system and now I know what's real and what's a bunch of crap. I saw all these illusions the world presents as cool, enlightening, fun stuff, and they didn't rock my world, so to speak, so I was left with me alone. That's when I discovered what enlightenment is. What we call society is really a bunch of loner individuals buying into some common formula or delusion in life out there that most of us subscribe to, or at least pretend to, in order to give off and feel the illusion that we're all somehow connected, which a lot of people need, to feel that they're united with something greater than themselves. The New Age movement banks on it, telling you that we're all united in this brotherhood and sisterhood of humanity, while I observe that most families are not loving, most couples have convenience relationships as opposed to profound, intimate ones, most people barely know their neighbors, people in general are inherently self-centered, and most get progressively less sociable as they age, yet some New Age guru is trying to tell me we're all united as brothers and sisters, righteously loving each other as divine souls who came from the creator force in the universe. That's kind of funny. If we're all so united in life and so loving towards our fellow humans, then why do we, on this side of the ocean, live in such wealth and excess while we're perfectly aware that 30,000 children die every day of malnutrition and lack of medicines on the other side of the ocean? Then we pretend to be so concerned when some weather calamity hits, when anybody who knows what's going on knows there's a calamity every day on the planet as a matter of routine. And what about man's inhumanity to man every night when you watch what they call the news on TV? Telling us we're all alike and united is a great tool of control to get us all thinking like a school of fish. A pure conscience is the only true religion. The conventional self-help clones will get you to put your life into about 6 little boxes: work and career, body and health, relationships and family, finance and home, social life, hobbies/recreation, and God, which I see in all the many Christian self-help books out there. Then they'll dedicate at least 75% of their book or tape program into firing you up to set goals and work on them little by little, day by day, like a machine, crossing everything else out, which is where they all fail. They don't realize that life doesn't work like this. It's a challenging, inspiring, hard-working, sensuous and hedonistic exploration of time, all in one varied flow. Anything else is less than a full life and will fall flat because it's not a balance of inspired work, spiritual centering, love and affection, sensual experience, play and rest. Religious leaders say they want their faithful flock to go to the local church, mosque, synagogue, or temple daily or weekly to glorify their gods, but the more pragmatic reason is to give them a regular pep talk, because they know that most people don't have the inner strength to be tough-minded, hard-working, inspired, moral, righteous and good about their lives left to their own devices, because all the good intentions in the world fade when the average individual is alone, tired, fed up, stressed out and faced with both sensuous temptations like eating too much of the wrong foods because they taste good, and moral temptations like when you see an opportunity to steal something with little probability of getting caught, or feel you should lie to make things go easier for you. If you're wise, you'll realize you have a spiritual moral nature inside of you, built in when you were born. In any situation, you inherently know the right way you ought to act, even though oftentimes lower order motives win over and you act contrary to the righteous, compassionate nature you feel inside that you know is the right way. Somebody once said a pure conscience is the only true religion. If you live by whatever dignity you feel within yourself, you'll have a clear conscience and a peaceful life. While I applaud the religious forces of the world in all their capacities, this subservience to an external God is still not as strong as the individual connected to his or her own soul, his own essence, who knows what he must do in order to be strongly inspired and true to himself without relying on God for guidance and comfort. I've met religious folk who break down morally and emotionally when things don't go their way. As soon as the world craps on them, they feel cheated, so set out to get their revenge and slash or recover their lost material wealth any way they can. Their belief in their God doesn't seem to sustain their ability to act as Jesus would in these circumstances. After all, they're only human. What do you expect out of fallible human beings without a strong sense of identity as to who they really are beyond their cursory claim to be children of God? Most successful people in a capitalist world are able to use the conventional self-help methods of setting goals and working on them little by little, day by day, to ploddingly go after what they want in a mechanical way, but it's boring, empty, and tough to stay inspired, not to mention what happens when you get tired, tempted by other things, reach this goal or don't reach it. Life still goes on day after day. You still have to live with yourself. How do you keep staying inspired, vital, calm and enjoying your life regardless of what happens to you in the paper chase of the rat race? The answer should be obvious. Believe in God if you want, because He's a positive force for the world, but combine your God and your individual soul all in one, such that you believe God gave you an awesome, divine power in your soul through which He implanted His seed of goodness particular to your unique journey of life. He uses you to speak to the world as His representative by doing the particular things you feel you must from your soul. You, as a fully contained individual receptacle of thought, can be an instrument for your God simply by listening to the positive aspects of this natural potential energy in your soul, acting on it, living by it, while being wise enough to know you can't go around lashing out and killing people every time you get angry and things don't go your way, lest you end up a victim of revenge or in jail, which means your life will be wasted. So learn to deal with it. Displace the anger as much as you can through positive activities. Learn to be calm, live by the golden rule of live and let live, and use the natural, inspired, divine spark that lives inside of you to do something that entertains, inspires, or helps people, earns you your cash and gives you the sense inside that you're doing what you were created for, that you're manifesting the destiny you feel you must, because you feel it as the song in your soul that seems to come from some powerful force beyond you. Nothing else will do. Everything else is either minor amusement or irrelevant next to this unique inner voice that your God implanted into at your conception/birth. The purpose of art is for the artist to take the experience of the human condition as far as he or she can go with it. The expression of this inspired energy could be for their own benefit to see how far they can go with their lives or it could be for the benefit of humanity to try to get others to see their version of beauty, truth, and or perfection such that it moves them in some emotional, gut, primal way to inspire them to do something with their lives that transcends the usual fare of a regular job, food, the shopping mall and TV. A rare breed. I know that what I am and what I feel is the greatest thing this universe has created so far. I trust it over and above all the collective knowledge, wisdom, and bunk the world routinely blasts at me every day if I choose to turn the TV on, listen to the radio, read the newspaper, visit websites, or talk to brainwashed people. My essence as a human being is the most powerful force in the universe to me. The only other forces I trust is if I sense other people are being honest with me from the bottom of their hearts without feeding me a line of bull they got from out there somewhere. Try to pursue an intense release of inspired sensual loving energy every single day in order to keep feeling good to great about your life. Try for a glorious human experience for its own sake above the general mundanity of the human condition regardless of what others think. The pop culture and capitalist forces, through their advertising and media images, market people at you who seem to be living great, wealthy, successful, cool lives, and they present the path to this as working hard to earn lots of money to buy all these stupid things. But if you buy into this lifestyle of material excess and an image of coolness defined by them as the key to happiness, you're setting yourself up for a dull, generic, uninspired life because it's not real and day-to-day life. Having an honest relationship with yourself is not about this. It's about knowing who you are and living every day to release this natural essence that is you as intensely, greatly, and gloriously as you can. It's about intense inspired sensual loving action. All I got is energy. There is a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action, and because there is only one of you in all time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and be lost, the world will not have it. Martha Graham. People who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want, and if they can't find them they create them. George Bernard Shaw. So I began to have an idea of my life, not as the slow shaping of achievement to fit my preconceived purposes but as the gradual discovery and growth of a purpose which I did not know. Marion Milner, A Life of One's Own, 1987. The goal of life is to know the truth. He who accepts himself has already begun to find himself, to be on firm ground. Søren Kierkegaard. For me, there is only traveling on the paths that have heart, and the only worthwhile challenge for me is to traverse its full length, looking breathlessly. Carlos Castaneda. Live your dreams awake. Impressionism is to the art world what free spiritism is to life. Up until the Impressionists of the 1800s like Claude Monet, Camille Pissarro, Edgar Degas, and Auguste Renoir, art followed a formula and a set path, but the Impressionists chose to paint what they saw and felt even though it led to hardship in their lives because they broke from the pack to be themselves. Revere your life, love it all, the joys, the victories, the pains and the struggles. Every day is the best day of your life because you've got another chance to live. Someday you won't get that chance anymore. Ask yourself at any given moment if you think you're living the greatest life you can, doing what you want, living with some intensity for something that turns you on. The means are all different but the lifestyles are all the same, people forging ahead with their lives to create them through vital living as they go along by doing what they want in their own particular way. Nobody original starts out with the certainty that they'll fulfill their destinies and become successful by society's standards, but they do it anyway without regard for the possible consequences. You're born with a soul already preformed, which is your essence, the most divine thing you own that your God gave you if he exists. It's like Stephen Dedalus says in James Joyce's Ulysses after his awakening as an artist, different now and yet the same. Life is really about an awakening to find your real self that was there when you were born. The more you neglect it and don't release your natural inspired energy, the more empty, depressed, and unfulfilled you'll feel. Think of it as your song flowing naturally as opposed to taking a bunch of disparate courses at school to reach some illusory standard set by someone other than you, reading a self-help book that tells you to follow its X number of steps to be successful, then work at some career to reach some illusory level of success that has very little to do with the person you naturally felt like when you were a 5-year-old kid doing what you wanted to. I have an insular Tahiti of sorts, that houses my soul, my highest vision of aesthetic beauty. My pact with life is to live for the spirit of it, and this is where my strongest allegiance lies, to follow my soul, live for the transient experience of the moment which is my pure agenda, to be healthy, strong, wise, creative, and free, live a long life. Then when it's my time to walk into the ether forevermore, I'll do it with no qualms whatsoever because I'll have walked my walk, lived my life purely without getting taken in by that corporate pop culture world out there. Most people start to get cut off from their true natures at about the age of 5 when they go to school, such that by the age of 18, they're willing volunteers to the boring, dull, mundane capitalist deal of life when their true natures could be worlds away from this, but the system has done a good job of brainwashing them to suit its needs of docile conformist, worker clones fooled into thinking the standard formula of the establishment is the path to happiness. If society offers X number of options in various things like career opportunities, TV channels, and the various activities of life, most people think they're free because they get to pick from among these options defined for them by the system. But what if you don't like any of them? It's like Pink Floyd in one of their songs from The Wall in the early 1980s, so what if you got 100 channels to choose from on TV when they're all crap? All you own is your life force. Every year in Hawaii, they run a race called the Ironman Triathlon. It's not really a race, it's an endurance test where people challenge themselves to finish a very grueling event over the course of the day: 2.4-mile swim, 110-mile bike ride, 26.2-mile run. They're inspired, psyched up, feeling good, well-trained, brave, tough, and ready, doing something they feel deeply inherent about within themselves. When they do it and conquer themselves for that day, they feel transcendent and great, kinda like walking on air, boundless for that instant of time. If you could bottle up this feeling and live it every day for the rest of your life, you would indeed drink from the cup of the universal enlightened master. Some people need to run fast. Some need to paint, play music, create something, or write their thoughts down to release the angst inside. A wise life is to develop the ability to ride your natural inspiration to a certain point of intense effort, then back off and rest before you reach that point of overexertion, fatigue and stress. Finding this balance is the process of living life as an art form, a beautiful, relaxed eternal mix of inspiration, peace, love, and hedonism. When you're old, your mind will still be the same consciousness it is now. If you can culture it and keep your body well, you can keep this stream of consciousness in an enjoyable, inspired, peaceful, positive flow most of the time. Enlightenment is to know how to stay inspired day after day no matter what, to culture a sense of divine inspiration within yourself where you feel good and are enjoying your ride of life most of the time. I'm talking about doing whatever it is you love to do that turns your crank, inspires you, blows your load spiritually, aesthetically, sensually, intimately almost every day. You do it for yourself because you're honoring the life force your God gave you. I don't compare myself to others because I'm supposed to be a unique creation of God following my own destiny. I generally don't poke my nose in the lives of others unless they're friends, family, or cohorts in some venture. Nothing good comes out of being a busybody, wondering what the other guy is doing, comparing yourself to him or competing with him. My God gave me my own life to deal with and honor. I'll focus on that and leave it there. The only one you have to prove anything to is yourself, or the inner standard, the sense of dignity, your God endowed you with. So what if you think you're superior to someone else in something or they to you? You live alone inside your head. Nobody else gives that much of a damn about you, regardless of whether they think that you think you're superior to them or they think they're superior to you. They're not spending their days thinking about you. They're not living their lives inside your head, but if they see that you give a damn about what they might think of you, they'll play you, butter you up when they want something, or make you feel insecure and guilty with a few negative comments when they want, and if you're the sucker who falls for it, you're in good company. Figure out who you are, it becomes your standard and you live by it for the rest of your life. The artificial roles we play are not who we really are. If you can imagine that you have the same genetic seed and pure raw energy as some naked Aboriginal native sitting in his hut looking up at the sky wondering about his life 10,000 years ago. Who we really are is a primal, carnal, hedonistic, divine, spiritual noble mix that was there already, formed like a blueprint for life when we were born as individual human beings. When you live in the box of the system and think you're free because you choose your major in college, choose a certain occupation, choose what brand of car you drive or where you live, this isn't really freedom because you're choosing from among the options set up for you by the system. You haven't taken the journey to get away from all that stuff, at least for a little while, to discover who you are as a pure entity away from capitalist pop culture bliss, away from the schedule of the 7-day work week, the X number of job options the system offers you to live like Jack Kerouac did in the 50s, on the road, when he said forget about the ambitions he was indoctrinated by to follow his own path away from all that stuff. He would cut out, so to speak, do the things he wanted to do to enjoy his life while exploring it and seek to earn his keep by doing something worthy from his inner wisdom and store of experiences that naturally inspired him and helped other people somehow. In his case, he became the icon of the beatnik generation, the mainstream symbol of the people who didn't feel right conforming to the standard lifestyle of the 1950s and wanted to live free lives true to themselves, the forerunner of the 60s hippies and nowadays enlightened free spirits who say screw it all, I'll respect other people but the driving force of my life is to honor the genetic seed my God endowed me with, to be true to myself. Along with Kerouac, the other major pioneer of the movement that was dissatisfied with the agenda of the system was Sloan Wilson, who worked at a corporation until a rival beat him to the job of holding his boss's hat. It was then he realized he had enough of this stupid lifestyle, quit his job, got a divorce, moved onto a sailboat where he wrote the novel The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit, which later became a movie starring Gregory Peck as the Man in the Gray Flannel Suit, a conformist who hated his conformist life. Flannel Suit showcased the emptiness of capitalism, conformity, and consumerism, with people living for nothing except to work to get money to buy useless things, mostly for status sake that they would barely use. It was the pioneering book for the modern-day concept of the rat race. And then after him it was Ken Kesey who started getting in the drug scene in the early 60s. It's like Bugger Vance said in the novel and movie The Legend of Bugger Vance, you gotta get away from all the clutter and hacking in the world to find the flow in your soul. He said, what I'm talking about is a game that can't be won, only played. When you let go of all that ego and pretense and focus on life as lived in the moment for its own sake without ulterior motives, you've won the most important game of all, the game to live the best life you can for yourself. Get away from the noise of the world that's been brainwashing you all your life and keeping you down. Find what you do best, live by it and love the process. You will have spent your entire lifetime purging all this natural potential energy you feel inside of you as intensely and sensually as you could, because you really, really enjoyed the process of living out this individual essence that is you. It reminds me of that line from the Blood, Sweat, and Tears song, all I ask of living is that it has no change on me. I believe that we're born with some things all set up inside of us, your blueprint for life, your primal divine soul that will manifest itself when you reach maturity if you let it, namely, a conscience about what is right and wrong, good and bad. An intuition about how to live a good, natural life true to ourselves. A connection to our divine spark, God, which gives us the inspiration to try to reach for the higher limits of the human condition. A passionate, lusty side that seeks hedonism and pleasure without exploiting others. This sensual quality has been demonized by modern-day society, which wants repressed conformist workers hooked on innocuous material things and low-level pop culture thrills, but in actual fact, the pursuit of higher states of sensations and consciousness is a high virtue and the path to freedom, as long as you don't infringe on the lives of people who don't want to partake in your sensual aesthetic pursuits with you. The only rule is that your rights stop where other people's rights start. Whatever consenting adults do together in discrete settings is fine. If a political nation makes laws that have no objective moral value, we all know by our inherent consciences what's morally right and wrong, that is, your adherence or non-adherence to them affects nobody but yourself and consenting cohorts, such as with seatbelt laws, smoking laws, helmet laws, recreational substance laws, or laws against sex workers. I try to ignore them because as a free being in the universe, I have the inalienable right to do with as I please with my life, as long as I don't cross the line into infringing on other people's rights. This is what true freedom is. Chapter 2. How to stay inspired. An artist is just trying to feel complete and whole. The ideal is within you, and the obstacle to reaching this ideal is also within you. You already possess all the material from which to create your ideal self. Thomas Carlyle. Walk in Beauty. Native saying about being whole. What you are is your wealth, not the material things you're surrounded by. Every artist free spirit is generally a born-again person, because even though you might have wisps of who you are as a kid, as young people we're all conditioned by the world around us, and only a few of us ever get beyond it enough to realize our inner states don't jive with the greater culture. Everywhere I look, I see the conformist capitalist work ethic junk food materialism ideology, so unless you've had that awakening like Stephen Dedalus on the beach in James Joyce's Portrait of the Artist as a young man, you don't see life as a free-spirited, creative adventure despite what front you might put on about how cool and enlightened you are. Consider Jim Morrison of The Doors, an alternative rock group in the 60s. Some say he might have gone off the deep end with his decadence and excess, but he had the right idea. He believed that the spirit of some dead native Indian he saw in a car accident as a kid entered into him, which tells me he lived in a kind of esoteric spiritual flowing space beyond the convention of bread and circuses. He understood that the hidden parts of the soul/essence were where life should be centered. The name of his band The Doors comes from the phrase by William Blake, "When the doors of perception are cleansed, things will appear as they really are." The Doors of Perception was the title of a book written by Aldous Huxley, another life explorer who helped popularize the use of hallucinogenic substances. Marcel Proust, through the book In Search of Lost Time, reduced life down into two types of people. Those tied down to their petty obsessions. Those with the freedom to release their spirits. Artistry, the pursuit of truth, no matter how enlightening or horrible, beauty and perfection, in any capacity, is approved narcissism for those lucky enough to get paid for it. But the catch is that even though you do it for yourself to expunge the energy inside, you do it because you love your life so much you want to reach its limits, and in the process of doing so, you want to pass your particular brand of inspiration onto the world, whether by a conscious act of love for humanity or as an inadvertent byproduct of your efforts. To my way of thinking, artists are among the most selfless people in the world, because it's not about working a functional job for them in order to earn their money to live mundanely comfortable lives, it's about the spirit of life itself. Creative people often sacrifice all the vagaries of a capitalist world to be themselves, which, for the most part, is a thankless job. Not that this bothers them all that much, but shows their belief in that unique genetic seed that houses their humanity, which is a testament to humanity as a whole and their love for it, because they love their lives so much they want to experience them fully to the deepest depths. When we see someone being themselves intensely as a unique artist in some way, it reassures that feeling with the enlightened among us that we are a noble, high-reaching species of being, despite all the mundanity and triviality in the small minds of the limited people that surround us. Think of those wisps of life you sometimes get after you've been dreaming, then wake up and remember a few images before they dissipate rapidly. I don't know if it's some defense mechanism the body has to forget about dreams very quickly to keep us in the dark somehow about our own lives, but the purpose of life to me is to live such that the hidden part of me buried away in my dreams is on the surface as close to my conscious reality as possible. You could call it searching for the holy grail of your life. I call it my raison d'etre, my defining purpose in life. I want to break that barrier of what lies hidden away deep inside of me that I believe houses some connection with our primordial roots that could be linked to a higher power. I feel a strong need to engage this obsession I have to get beyond this physical mundane existence to touch the divine through what I do. Time waits for no one. You'll age, wither away, lose your spiritually inspired vitality, assuming you ever had it in the first place, then die away. The purpose of life is to keep renewing yourself through inspiration, love, and hedonism to keep you young till death do you part. As long as you keep doing this, you'll enjoy your life. Transcendence to me is the soul of free spiritism, an attempt to get a little higher than the mundane lives most of us are accustomed to day after day. It's a psychedelic spiritual carnal mix, a search for intense sensations of pleasure and higher states of consciousness, something like Van Gogh when he sat out one night drinking wine, probably doing opium, painting Starry Night. He was living the passion of the moment, feeling his fullest primal essence as a human being, out there trying to capture the feeling of a mortal soul in the midst of the grandeur of the heavens, being as alive and pure as he could be to see the true simple beauty of his life, trying to feel a visionary, romantic grandiose adventure that goes beyond the generic fare of the day-to-day routine, a reverence for the sanctity of life because he as well as all enlightened masters know only too well how fleeting and finite it is. Prototype free spirits to me are characters like Ovid the senator in ancient Rome, banished to an island where he developed his treatise called Metamorphoses while living an enchanted life indulging his ID, or Paul Gauguin, the French banker turned artist who went down to Tahiti in the 1890s to follow his true nature, indulging both his creative and hedonistic whims. Despite the mainstream's attempt to portray Timothy Leary as a loose cannon, he explored his life as deeply as anyone could and expressed it through such works as Your Brain is God and The Delicious Grace of Moving One's Hand, Intelligence is the Ultimate Aphrodisiac, Leary.com. Van Gogh was more tortured, but he understood the need to express the soul. He tried to live pure and free. Joseph Campbell in The Power of the Myth said, "You must have a place where you can simply experience and bring forth what you are and what you might be. This is the place of creative incubation. This is the most important thing in life, to follow your own bliss wherever it takes you. Be intense and urgent." In a parable I read, a young man approached the old master and asked him for enlightenment. The old man instructed him to put a plastic bag over his head, whereupon he wrapped a rope around it and held it tight. The young man stayed like that for about a minute, thinking it was part of the process to find enlightenment, but then he started to get short on breath and choking, but the old man held tight until just before the guy passed out, then released the rope and took the bag off, the young guy angrily gasping for air to restore himself. When the young man asked him what did he do that for, the old guy said, "When you want enlightenment as much as you want air, you will find it." The lesson is if you really want something, be intense and desperate about it. Big Brother Basics. In the novel 1984 by George Orwell, they first make the nonconformist Winston Smith denounce the people he loves, then betray himself. After that, they let him loose and we don't hear much about him until near the very end, when he's sitting in the bar watching the force on the big screen talk about the war and how our side was winning. In that one instant he realizes he has become a part of the system because he now has an emotional attachment to what they're saying on the box. He's now a willing part of that story, that charade, that society. He has sold at least a part of his soul to it. It's no longer about him trusting himself, following his own path. He's now buying into the paternalistic paradigm. He lets others like his big brother and the kindly-looking, wise, old men on the box tell him what's best for him and how he should live his life. He will follow because he wants that comfy feeling that as long as he follows them, someone is looking out for him, all is well, and he will feel that cozy and reassured feeling within himself. He's no longer an individual living by his own thoughts and his own standard. He's now part of the machine by virtue of being emotionally invested in it, therefore one of its protectors and cheerleaders. It's no different than what's going on nowadays. People get emotionally invested in that stuff they show us called the news, the game of politics, which side wins in professional sports, who is the supposed celebrity of the day, and they watch those sitcoms, drama shows and movies to develop intimate relationships with these strangers on them they don't even know. This is Big Brother. He doesn't have to hit us over the head. He seduces us with junk food, hair coloring, cosmetics, big trucks and cheap TV shows. He tells us what's cool and fun, and since we want to be cool and have fun while appeasing our big brother by conforming to what he wants, we go along with it, most of us without realizing we are being manipulated or questioning any of it. Cold weather saps energy. If you live up north, the cold weather will sap your soul every winter. If you can swing it, move south. There's plenty of land, enough jobs, real estate is pretty cheap in many places, and it's so much better when it's 70 degrees out in the middle of January while the poor souls up north are either stuck in a building or freezing their butts off. It's cheaper to live in the south than in the north for consumer goods and other things like heating costs, wear and tear on your car, no need for boots or heavy coats, etc. Cultural brainwash saps souls. What do I mean by brainwash? Well, For starters, it's the delusion that owning an excessive amount of money and material things beyond a normal standard of basic comfort will increase your happiness, which is not true, because once you have your basic needs met, you create happiness by the way you live day by day, not through what you own. The other big delusion of cultural brainwash is that your status out in the community, your fame/popularity, aka what other people think of you, has some bearing on how happy you are, which is a lie, because we're all loners in our heads, and what other people think of us means nothing next to the personal challenge of matching your own personal standard of becoming the person you want to be, day by day. A big delusion people often have is that they think that the world is revolving around them and people are actually devoting some of their time to thinking about them because they're so fascinating, cool and special. But if they find enlightenment, they'll realize that people are much too self-centered to spend much time thinking about other people, except for their one or two intimates in life, and even there, it's a stretch in a lot of cases. Only you can create your own happiness from within yourself. Other people cannot give you your sense of self-respect, and self-respect is the base of all happiness. You need it to feel good about your life. You can get some happiness by loving your few intimates and them loving you back. Then there's happiness through the pursuit of pleasure, and after that comes all the low-level stuff society has brainwashed you with by calling it the path to happiness, such as acquiring more material goods than you need, getting a makeover, doing a home improvement job on your house, watching movies, TV shows, music videos, the cult of celebrity, eating good tasting food, coloring your hair, playing computer games, etc. Know how to earn your self-respect every day and do it. It doesn't matter if you're a pop star or a movie star and you got hundreds of people lining up to get your autograph. First off, you'll age, then you'll be a has-been as the fickle public move on to the next flake of the month. Secondly, you answer to yourself only. What others think of you cannot affect you trying to honor who you are. If you're weak and stupid, you'll let transient praise or criticism from others affect how you feel. If you're smart, it won't affect you. You simply live by your own standard. Consumeristic brainwash is the big sales machine getting you hooked on clothes, cars, material things, pop culture, entertainment, professional sports, etc., such that you think all this stuff is gonna do something for you to make you feel good to great, that this is the path to happiness. So you work your job to earn enough money to spend it on all this junk because the advertising machine tells you that this is what cool, trendy, successful people do for pleasure and entertainment. But to someone like me, it's all crap, mind and soul pollution that people let take them over rather than following who they really are in their souls in order to live original lives for themselves. These things are all meaningless in light of what's really going on in the world, but if you plug into any kind of mainstream media, you'll soon see that they deify pop culture pursuits which have the effect of brainwashing our entire society to be a bunch of frivolous, misguided, deluded souls more concerned with looking for some kind of entertainment out there to fill them up rather than looking to discover what is original and inspired within themselves, then living by that standard. We don't live original, inspired lives for ourselves, nor bother to see all the need out there and try to help people by alleviating some of it in some way. We just want to eat junk food and plug into all that crap on the box. Eternal consumer, fake knowledge, brainwash. Life in a modern, media-soaked world of formal education credentials is everybody talking at you, presuming to know what's right for you better than you know yourself. Whatever happened to a person listening to themselves, thinking their own thoughts, developing their lives based on intuition, experiences, analysis, and decisions they make on their own as go along? If you allow it, you can let yourself get taken over by the world system at the expense of yourself. Many people let this happen by default because they're not strong enough to see that they have a distinct identity that they should honor, so they let themselves get seduced by all the stuff out there which fills them up instead of living by their own standards within themselves. All those forces out there want a piece of you one way or another, either your money, your mind, or your soul. They want you to be an eternal consumer and destroy yourself out in the world of work and business, thinking you're doing something great, worthy, and noble, but most of the time you're doing something that's common and expendable, sacrificing yourself for some image of happiness and success that originates out there somewhere. It's not inherent to the real you. Nobody or no entity on the planet can inspire me much. I inspire myself every day, all the time. All enlightened people eventually come to this way of living. They realize that a constant sense of inspiration is the key to life, and you have to figure out how to create it within yourself all the time. Nothing out there can give it to you, but a lot of people don't know this. They're looking out in the world for some answer or something to fulfill them and bring them a feeling of happiness, wholeness, success, fame, status, and pleasure, but that's the big lie and the grand illusion of the system. Most of us think that there's something out there that's gonna make us happy. We don't realize that the source of all happiness is knowing your true identity and living by it day after day. We live in a soppy world of fake knowledge where people in the religious fields, the academic fields called the social sciences, which were all created out of thin air by a bunch of introverted types masquerading as our system-sanctioned wise people, the New Age gurus, the pop culture entertainment industry, the capitalist corporate machine of consumerism, and people in the mass media are either trying to manipulate us into buying something we don't really need or trying to get us to buy into one idea or another in order to get some manner of control over us. This is a loose conspiracy of people who feel they are insiders within the mainstream system, protecting its views and promoting its values. These system people talk at us in an arrogant, condescending way, implying they're somehow superior to us, trying to indoctrinate us in one way or another to conform to some agenda they have, all the while claiming that they're teaching us to empower ourselves, as they like to say, while I'm looking at all of them saying, who are you to presume you have something over me that gives you the right, power, or authority to teach me anything or try to shove it down my throat in a manner that's so insidious that most people don't even know they're being manipulated. Anybody can go to school to learn so-called knowledge created by others, but this doesn't give you wisdom in life, even though the system seems to think so and routinely gives a bunch of unenlightened people their formal credentials that supposedly certifies them as wise, enlightened intellectuals, at least in what they call the social sciences, which is virtually all a bunch of verbal diarrhea created in the guise of studying the nature of the human condition, which is very simple, intuitive, and unpredictable when you get right down to it, because everybody sees the world differently from their own point of view, known to none but them, and people in general are emotionally reactive. They do what they feel in the moment, so you can only go so far in studying people, and the rest will always be a function of the situation at hand, which is why it's a useless lie to create big college departments and academic libraries dedicated to what they call the social sciences. All that collective wisdom in all those academic journals and system-sanctioned books adds exactly nothing to insight into the human soul. They certify all these people as psychologists, sociologists, therapists, psychiatrists, psychobablists, etc., giving them the system seal of approval to tell other people how to live their lives, when the truth is that most of them are system clones, regurgitating what they were taught in school. There's nothing original about these people, which is the first rule of enlightenment: follow yourself rather than follow what others tell you or what you read in a book or see on TV. They don't breathe a word about true wisdom, which comes from two places. 1. Analyzing what you feel intuitively within yourself as a case study of one. 2. Observing life as it happens around you, analyzing it to come to your own conclusions and insights. Academic and book knowledge takes a distant third in trying to understand your unique right of the human condition, but just about everybody is brainwashed to think that if you score high in tests about the dry courses they teach you, it means you're wise. All it shows is that you're a conformist clone good at regurgitating whatever they feed you with. I've examined most of the theories of life out there. None of them understand the true nature of the human condition in its free state. You have one essence, that is your soul. You must discover it, then develop a lifestyle where you're honoring that essence by releasing the inspired aesthetic energy it brings forth within you, every day, all the time. This simple way of living is the only real, natural, flowing way to ride the engine that is your life, and it is an engine in the sense that it's all about this one global machine that is you, either operating as one unit doing well or doing not so well. It's got nothing to do with all those steps, strategies, and stages all those psychobablists and self-help phonies have been blasting at us for the past 40 years or so in all their useless books, all with X number of one-liners about how to empower yourself and live a great life. Tap into your own sense of natural inspiration, beauty, and the fantasies in your soul mind, which is your soul in its pure state. The law of life applies to animals too. At one time, I was insensitive enough to not take my dog for his daily run because I felt I had no time, but then I noticed that he got aggressive and temperamental when he didn't get a chance to release his natural, inspired energy like he's supposed to by nature. After that, I never disrespected him again. Now every day I give him plenty of opportunity to follow his true nature and blow off his natural steam. Happiness is that simple. Release your natural energy to a worthy level and you feel good. Don't release it and it sits inside of you unused, destroying you from within. Through a process of maturation, I have learned on my own without religion that material greed or excess disrupts my natural sense of harmony. How can I engage in extreme frivolous activities when I'm perfectly aware that half of the world is starving? It's not good sense to be antagonistic to people because you alienate them from you. You get what you want much easier by being nice and cooperative rather than with an elitist, self-centered attitude. It also makes you feel better to be loving and live in harmony with others, at least your family and a few friends. It's wise to serve myself and within that lifestyle, find some way to serve my fellow man to keep me balanced without trying to live by this extreme, artificial religious standard that almost no one can match, which is why some people go totally carnal. They get so tired of being told what to do and how to think according to society's standards that they go to the opposite extreme in the pursuit of pleasure, hedonism, consumerism, material greed, and pop culture thrills to the extent that it leaves them empty, just like religion does, because they're not being whole individuals the way they naturally feel it. There is some condition being imposed on them that they choose to follow, either a religious code or society's code of what is cool, successful, exciting and pleasurable. Partying is only pleasurable for a season because deep inside, you have a sense of the noble person you want to be, someone who feels proud of themselves without having to go off and make the scene somewhere with some phony-in crowd of lost souls looking at each other to reinforce their empty lives. It's called self-respect. People with a lot of it earn it every day by doing what they feel they must from their true natures. We're all selfish and self-centered with a desire to be loving, loved, kind, benevolent and helping all at the same time. This is the natural paradox and hypocrisy of the human condition. We want it all, we want it now for ourselves, and we want to be nice, kind, loving, and popular too. The major source of discontentment in our society comes from trying to conform to the standards of the world rather than living by our own standards and constantly releasing our natural energy. You can use all that stuff out there as the circus of life for your entertainment and minor amusement, but never let it take you away from the person you want to be. Chapter 3. Be vital. Follow the flow. There is beauty everywhere. I walk in beauty. Navajo prayer. The soul learns at last that it is self-delighting, self-appeasing, self-affrighting, and that its own sweet will is heaven's will. W.M. Butler Yeats. A soul doesn't learn anything. It just discovers what it is. Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you are doing, you will be successful. Dr. Albert Schweitzer. Consider today's society. It gratifies and satisfies every need, except for one, the need for meaning. Viktor Frankl, The Unheard Cry for Meaning. On a generic, mass level, society has made us a bunch of neurotic, lonely people feeling like we're missing out on something if we're not in an ideal loving relationship, so we spend much of our lives looking for the perfect love that will miraculously fulfill us based on idealistic love stories we hear in the media, which most of us try desperately to find in real life, often destroying ourselves in the process. In my opinion, less than 3% of the population will get the glorious love affair they desire in their lives. Even if you do find great love, you'll still find that you wake up every morning alone in your head to face the day, to either inspire yourself through a flow of tough worthy effort complemented with a relaxing, sensuous lifestyle, or live a dull life in average, cruise comfort mode. You can only get so close to other human souls, and the rest is you alone, like the 13th century Sufi, Islamic sect, poet mystic Jalaluddin Rumi, 1207–1273, said, "There is a passion in me that doesn't long for anything from another human being. All my talk was madness, filled with dos and don'ts. For ages I knocked on a door, when it opened, I found that I was knocking from the inside. Don't be satisfied with stories, how things have gone with others. Unfold your own myth." In Self-Reliance, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Nothing can bring you peace but yourself." Henrik Ibsen, the 19th century Norwegian writer, said, "The strongest man in the world is he who stands most alone without getting neurotic if he's not in some perfect lovey-dovey romance with a picture-perfect family that rarely exists in the real world anyway." Focus on your life, get the emotional connections you need with other people, but don't rely on them too much for your happiness, because no matter what, you stand alone in your life. If you live inspired, true to your soul, you'll have a better chance of connecting with that soulmate equal, because you'll be a prize, and the worthy candidates of the opposite sex, same sex if you're gay, will know it when they see you and want to connect with you more so than if you were just some average desperado with an average job desperate to find somebody to change your life, as the old Moody Blues song says, because you feel so lonely inside. Only when you're happy with yourself by living the life that you feel is right for you and got some disposable cash in the bank can you find a true mate to share your happiness with. Society wants 3 things out of you: to become a responsible worker by holding down a good job and doing it well. Become a consumer by plugging into pop culture values such that you're always buying things to try to look cool, trendy, modern and fashionable. Be cool and feel cool, cool as defined by the system. Get married and have kids so that you'll be a good consuming citizen stuck in the work-eat-spend cycle of the traditional American dream. All these things are well and good, but what if somebody suddenly were to give you $10 million? It would make you financially secure and comfortable, which would relieve the burden of financial stress, but as far as the spiritual, intimate, carnal, transcendent highs of life go, all the money in the world can't give them to you. It's something you have to create from within yourself all the time. It's how much spark do you have for your life at any moment in time. I think true artists are tortured because they can't unwind. They have one-track minds only, focused on their vision. It wears them out or makes them go crazy, like Van Gogh looking to capture the perfect experience with God. Trying to touch the divine too much drives people crazy. We are human beings. The free spirit believes in giving great effort when he feels like it, but to have the temperance and diversity to exercise a variety of the options life has to offer, to not be bound by anything at all as some artists are, living out the stereotype of the brooding, intense master only concerned with finding perfection and transcendence through their limited base of work. I've gotten away from perfectionist thinking a long time ago. Worthy effort to about 90% intensity is good enough for me. There is no destination point to shoot for where you think you'll be happy, because you have to create happiness all the time by a mixture of releasing all those energies within you that make you feel good. Life goes on and on, day after day, until you die. Even if you reach a feeling of perfection for a minute or so, the next day you'll wake up feeling groggy and tired, and you'll have to expend some energy to feel good on that day, or something will happen that will cause stress in your life, so you'll lose the perfect feeling, then have to work to try to get it back. I have great days all the time, but the next morning when I wake up, I feel like a dud for at least an hour until I pump some iron, run around or do something like that. You can have 10 sexual orgasms today and feel great, which is good, but tomorrow, you have to keep doing it, because all great feelings are transient. You have to keep creating them over and over again. It never ends unless you die a spiritual death and give in to mundanity. The only thing that matters is the extent to which you can keep this flow going within yourself, or lose it and have the ability to get it back again. You either have this spark of life within you or you're spiritually dead, but it's not an all or nothing thing. Most of us have a percentage of our fullest possible vitality as discussed in the soul scale. The important thing to win the game of life is to never stray too far from this essence poetically known as your soul. It's just a constant movement of life, ultimately believing only in what I generate in my head, treating all the rest as my circus of entertainment in an otherwise much maligned world. You recharge when you rest. You can't go full blast living for inspiration and hedonism all the time like a manic artist with so much energy he can't stop until he crashes. You can come pretty close when you're young, but as you get older, I've found that I had to balance my time, pace myself so to speak, live to release my inspiration in a healthy temperate way, enjoy the pleasures of life and rest simply because I have to. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, and secondly, you need rest simply because you can't take the punishing pace that living an inspired life takes out of you, even if you love what you do. You have to get off the merry-go-round to pursue distractions, do nothing much to recharge your batteries and save yourself for the long run. George Bernard Shaw said, "A life spent in making mistakes is not only more honorable but more useful than a life spent in doing nothing, which to me means action regardless of what type it is." Originality is a free individual being as pure and primal in thought as some aborigine looking up at the sky 10,000 years ago wondering what it was all about for him, so the mantra is constant original action over a lifetime. True self-respect is the hardest thing to earn. Fake self-respect is easy. Get a makeover, a new car, a dull job somewhere, some trendy clothes, and all of a sudden, you feel like the cock of the walk, but an enlightened person wouldn't feel any different because he knows all this stuff is just outer dressing. Accept the world for what it is in all its glory and ugliness, know that it will never fully appreciate whatever you might do to help it. People will routinely take your help, then show no gratitude or acknowledgement, but be nice to them anyway regardless of your true motives, which you'll find are often self-serving, but that's cool. It's the way of the world, the way of human nature. Just be in there using up your talents to do something good for someone so you can get your cash out of the deal. To live the life you want. Fountain of youth / constant action and enjoyment of life. Live to release your aesthetic, spiritual, inspired, loving energy all the time as joy, euphoria, and transcendence. In our modern world in the West, we have the means to earn a living for ourselves while pursuing this type of lifestyle. When you use up your time every day releasing a lot of inspired aesthetic energy, you're feeling good to great most of the time, plus the fact that this is the only bona fide fountain of youth that exists to help you maximize your chances of living a long, happy life. But even still, most people haven't figured it out yet, or maybe they're just too lazy to have the guts and the strength to aspire to live true to themselves. The transcendent feeling comes on while in the process and motion of doing something inspired that's usually physical and / or creative. A constant action and enjoyment of life is the only way to live a good feeling life. This attempt to free oneself from the generic mundanity of the human condition through activities you do is an attempt to reach the heavens, to be with the gods, to feel godlike for a little while every day when you're fully engaged in some intense, inspired, sensual or loving activity. Sometimes you can reach it through the use of mind-altering substances too. For free, enlightened people, life is reduced to a constant intense release of their spirits, an eternal purging of the inspired energy within as though it was their lifeblood or fountain of youth. If you constantly continue to release your inspired energy and live that way, knowing that this is what really makes you happy, you'll live a transcendent, inspired and euphoric life. There are 2 rules to follow if you want to honor your own personal blueprint of free spiritism. 1. Right now, at this moment, I am striving to be the person I was born to be in my pure essence as a human being. 2. Every day, I work on honoring the standard of purity that is me in my soul by releasing all the natural, primal, noble, intense, inspired, aesthetic, loving energy I feel coursing through my veins. Life for the truly enlightened is to dig deep, find your true essence, then seek to release it day by day in an attempt to capture truth, beauty, perfection, lust, love, transcendence, and joy in your own way to stay happy and calm and add to the progress and well-being of humanity somehow. If you want to feel like you're doing something worthwhile with your life to earn you your cash, self-respect and a sense of nobility. The purpose of life for me is to ride it to the hilt in order to capture moments of transcendence here and there through what I do, and also to culture a long-term sense of well-being by constantly expending myself to my limits. This is nirvana, to blow a load of aesthetic, primal, spiritual, loving energy every day that comes from my soul to help make me the person I want to be, then to sit back and enjoy my life for a little while after I do this before I go to sleep and repeat the process tomorrow. Free Spirit Mantra. I am who I am. I live for inspiration, beauty, aesthetics, pleasure and love, love of self, love of life, love of animals, love of spirit, love of romance and love of people I can relate to. Free Spirit Mantra. It's not about setting goals, which is the linchpin of the entire conventional self-help movement. It's about knowing how to stay inspired about your life and enjoying it day by day. You do that by following your essence within. Anytime there is a group of 3 or more people anywhere on the planet and one is obviously more an individual than the others with his or her own ideas, the others will always talk about this person behind their back and unite to try to put him or her down to make them feel like a freak for not conforming to their mainstream, dull, capitalist, uninspired way of life. I've seen it happen with all kinds of different demographic groups of people within society. If you're too much of an individual and are a member of a family or a group, expect criticism and ostracism. They are jealous of you or feel threatened, so they will try to assert control by trying to make you feel inferior and deviant. Some people don't like to see original free thinkers trying to live inspired, sensual, aesthetic, hedonistic lives for themselves. It makes them feel jealous and inferior, so because they're not enlightened nor have the spiritual essence to live these kinds of lives, they act on primitive instinct, try to belittle, control or destroy the people who are living like this. Life should be a circle. Everybody gets influenced by the world when they're young, stupid, insecure, and naive, which is normal because we're not strong enough to know and trust ourselves yet. Enlightened people will complete the circle by eventually getting strong enough to go back to the essence from whence they came, which is them the way they were born. They will choose to live by the divine blueprint in their soul that their God gave them at conception, which they intuitively feel is good and right. For most people, the circle of life will be broken. They will disrupt the natural harmony within themselves by following one illusion or another from the world system, and because it's not the real them in the nature they were born with, they will be lost souls floating in space, always with a gnawing sense of emptiness deep down inside, because they sense, on some level, that they're dishonoring themselves by not following their true pure essences as human beings. You have to earn a living out in the world, but the moment you become enlightened is the moment you realize that what's out there is a layer of artificial values imposed upon you. If you can peel it off through a process of self-contemplation and experience out in the world to discover who you really are and live by it, you win the game of life. The more you live by your true essence as a human being and constantly release this natural, inspired, loving and hedonistic energy you feel inside to an intense level to the best of your ability, the freer and happier you'll be, which translates into a feeling of transcendence. The less you live by your true essence as a human being, either by buying into the agenda of the world out there and trying to achieve what they call success, or living a couch potato, lazy type of lifestyle, the more your natural, inherent, primal, and divinely inspired energy sits inside of you unused, which is the cause of most of human misery, apart from the misery of feeling lonely or feeling like you're not a success out in the world. But these are artifacts of cultural brainwash, so it all comes down to identity, how true you are to the mug in the mirror. The further away you are from your true self by not releasing your natural energy, the more empty you will feel. Regardless of whether you love your job or your business, there is no perfect job or business out there where you own your own time and do exactly as you please. At least 30% of every job or business involves tedium, doing dry, boring things that you have to do as part of it. If you don't honor your inner essence as a human being by releasing your natural, potential, inspired energy doing tough, challenging, worthy things, you will lose the connection with your true nature, soul, over time. Physiologically purging the natural energy out of yourself causes the release of endorphins, but psychologically, spiritually, and aesthetically, it makes me feel like I metaphorically hit a grand slam, or at least a home run, in my pursuit of a great lifestyle, at least for today, right now, in the moment. I'm not against capitalism. I like my cheap technical gadgets. I'm not totally against pop culture entertainment. I think 95% is crap but 5% is entertaining. I like to watch mindless TV shows sometimes and listen to good music, but I'm against material excess and the lie that more things beyond the basics will make you happier, and against the deification of pop culture entertainment as the cutting edge of what's cool in life, because next to the actual experiences of life in what I try to do day by day to be inspired, sensual, aesthetic, euphoric and affectionate, it's just some low-level amusement. I don't get it. We have doctors, teachers, engineers, scientists, inventors, visionaries, intellectuals, adventurers, and true artists who work very hard selflessly for the good of society, but they parade these manufactured pop culture flakes at us as the supposed important, special, elite people doing the important stuff that we should pay attention to, when they're just arrogant tits doing nothing much for the good of humanity as far as I'm concerned. But this is the game that's being played out there, and the masses of generic people eat it up trying to imitate it. What's out there can't compete to the experience that this is your life alone, to either live to thrive in as your unique adventure or be swept up by indoctrination from out there, which will leave you listening to all those low-level generic people who will try to convince you that watching football is the manly thing to do, or that coloring your hair will make you look cool and glamorous, which is all, of course, a bunch of bull. Yet how many stupid men watch football not because they love it, but because they have been brainwashed to think it's what masculine men do, and how many women color their hair thinking it makes them look glamorous, not realizing it makes them look like stupid, weak, brainwashed trailer trash who let themselves get taken in by cheap, tacky advertising. And don't be fooled by the hippy-dippy, left-wing, activist, counterculture movement either. They're a bunch of lost souls just like the capitalists are, looking to grasp at some ideological utopian straw out there somewhere that doesn't exist. Happiness comes from action, not from possessions. Society has a built-in hierarchy or class system. In North America, we pretend it doesn't exist, but there is a pecking order based on salary, position at work, the type of work you do, the size of your house, the clothes you wear, the neighborhood you live in, the color of your skin, your religion, etc. In India, up until recently, they had no pretenses about a pecking order of importance. They had their caste system. You're either born an elitist Brahma or you're born a pauper untouchable, and the people were brainwashed to believe there was nothing they could do about it. This was a very easy way for the elitists to control the masses of poor people there. The elitists, people with money and power who control society behind the scenes, sometimes called the shadow government, think they're superior, but in order to control you, they want you to think that you're a part of some united brotherhood of humanity called society, so that when they manipulate the news and propaganda to tell people to jump one way, most will buy this sheeple effect. Enlightenment is to accept reality for what it is and never, ever let any delusions cloud the objective truth of any situation. Watch any reality show on TV. The devious, backstabbing ones trying to claw their way to the top by any means necessary are the ones who get rewarded. People lose their true selves to the brainwash of the world all the time, then 20 years later, they wonder why they feel so empty inside. Happiness comes from action, not from possessions, what you think other people think of you, status, popularity, or the very fact that they're thinking about you, fame. Happy, inspired people are the ones riding their lives like a surfer rides a wave or a dancer dances. It's the joy of the dance to them, not concerned with where they'll end up, meaning how much crap they'll own beyond what they need for basic comfort or what position they'll have out in the community. Sometimes you do the tango, sometimes you boogie, sometimes you cha-cha, sometimes you rock, sometimes you waltz, sometimes you wanna do the twist or the limbo, whatever you feel like in the moment, as long as you keep moving, because this is what life is for happy, inspired people, a constant experience of interesting, intense sensations. It's the motion of the journey, the dance itself that matters, not the final destination. Happiness revisited one more time. It's not about those lists of happiness the psychobablists have come up with, where they list 8 factors or so, and if you supposedly have all of them, you score high in happiness. So what? A score on some clinical test can't measure a transcendent feeling of euphoria. I saw them interview a few of these supposed happy people on a CTV show called W5 about happiness. It was a lie. Fat people can't be happy because they are out of harmony with themselves regardless of what they claim on the outside. They're putting on an act for the world. It was a generic, low-level, clinical definition of happiness, kinda like I have a wife and 2 kids, I got a good job, I go to church, I got some friends, I own a truck, I feel like I'm part of the community, I got a purpose in life and I got no disease. Where's the life orgasm or the pursuit of it? All the psychobabble in the world created so far has not yet addressed the pursuit of life to stay above generic mundanity by releasing intense energy in order to feel free and high about life. Try to touch nirvana by expending yourself mightily in what you love to do, and when you've blown that load of energy on any given day, you have reached transcendence and will be able to ride out a feeling of happiness for the rest of the day, then do it all over again tomorrow. Check out Eugene Onal's play The Iceman Cometh. Inner dignity. We seem to measure an individual's worth by his wealth and status in the community, but there is a worth deeper than that, the inner dignity an individual has within themselves, a sense that they are doing the right things with their lives, honoring the inner standards within themselves. When you're alone, all by yourself in your head, as we all are at least 23 hours out of any day, your wealth or status out in the world mean nothing. All you have is you, either with a sense of inner dignity or without it. From my observations, this is the most valuable way an individual can aspire to live, for the inner sense of dignity within his or her soul. Wealth and status out in the world are fine, but they should be byproducts of living by this dignity within, not the other way around, striving to achieve wealth and status for their own sake without culturing the inner sense of dignity you should feel about yourself. We're all just making time. In 50 years, this current decade will be relegated to an occasional 1-hour show on History TV. In 100 years, it'll be a 1-hour TV show about the century. That's how much we will matter on the landscape of the entire human civilization, which is why I live my life as I do. Many people are searching for the key to a good life, especially young people. Most people over 40 are set in their ways as boring duds. If you can see yourself as the naked soul you really are, that will be a first step towards enlightenment. Look at people. The body and face don't lie. They reveal a person's true biography away from position in the world. You don't sense vitality and happiness exuding through the pores of most people. The permanent imprint in their faces do not look happy, nor do the bodies look robust and hardy. Live by your own inner standard day by day and accept that as your divine mission from whatever created you without the need to prove anything to the world. Beyond earning a living for yourself, it's your right of time. Nobody can ever experience what you think or feel, and nobody really cares all that much, firstly because they physically can't feel what you feel, and secondly, they're stuck in their own heads, focused on themselves like you're focused on yourself. So get over the ego crap of trying to fill other people's heads up with thoughts of you, realize it's your ride by yourself in your head and try to take it for a good ride, doing what you feel is good and right from within yourself. Your true nature is the natural interests, tendencies, drives and potentials you were born with to do things simply because you love the process of doing them, because they give you a sense of dignity, inner power, inner peace, identity, joy, strength, self-respect and the euphoric thrill of being alive, an inner sensibility you can't buy or get much by following the formula of how to live a successful life according to the world system, which is basically to get a few capitalist goals in the traditional sense of the American dream and work your butt off like a robot, person in one-dimensional mode, step by step following the rules to try to achieve capitalist success, which includes the package deal. Most of those phony liberals you see on TV playing the role of bleeding heart, caring left-wingers go back to their big, comfortable homes at night while there are homeless, hungry people a few miles from where they live. The left-wingers are no different than the right-wing hypocrites. If these people were sincere, they'd be out there doing something hands-on, rather than going on TV flapping their gums about one piece of bullshit or another. The brainwashed people all around you are reinforcing their brainwashed lives through a concept that George Orwell, the writer of the novel 1984, called groupthink, a form of peer pressure where almost everybody is focused on one mindset that's supposed to be the cool, happening, mainstream way to be, and if you're not on this wavelength, they try to brand you as weird or deviant in an effort to try to make you conform to this grand illusion of the way life should be lived, which is to buy into the consumer capitalist, traditional work ethic lifestyle. Enlightenment is to realize that there's nothing out in the world superior to me and the pure essence of who I am. I create euphoric, transcendent feelings within myself and live in that mindset. I refuse to be polluted. The further away a person gets from living by their pure essence, the more empty and miserable they feel. When people do not live by their true natures, they don't release their inherent natural energy every day, which is what you must do in order to constantly feel good and ride an eternal wave of inspiration. The further away you get from this, meaning the longer you go on not releasing the natural potential energy you were born with, the more it builds up inside of you and destroys you from within. Chapter 4. Be pure. Nobody has a crystal ball. Life is always at least 50% uncertainty. I've seen enough to know that fate will take its cut when you least expect it. I've known several people who worked, saved, and scrimped for their dream home off in the woods somewhere, only to die of a disease before they ever had a chance to spend one day in it. I saw a girl on TV who was living a great life but got stuck in a car one night with her boyfriend when he killed a cop, and she ended up doing 20 years for being an accessory, although she claimed she was innocent. Life is now, not your fantasy of what you will do when you're 65 at retirement with one foot in the grave by virtue of your age. I saw a talk show where a woman was saying how her rich husband gave her a $40,000 a month allowance, then all of a sudden, he found someone else, divorced her, left her with the kids, and she had to go on welfare until she dug herself out of the pit. I knew a guy who was a commercial diver, diving one day doing a job when a boat ran him over and took a leg off, among other things. All you have is right now, today, the next 5 minutes, and that's it. If you plan too much, it will never go the way you want it to. Something always happens. People worry about their little problems. Get real. You ain't got a real problem until you've lost a leg to cancer and might die like Terry Fox did, but it didn't stop him from trying to run across Canada on one leg. Time waits for no one. The world keeps spinning round every day as it has for billions of years, and it don't care if you sit in your house all day and watch TV or get out and actually do something. In the end, you will be dead. The only thing that will have mattered is whether your life was worth living. If God is up there, he will judge for himself. If not, at least you will have lived this life on this planet, your only shot, to the best of your ability. Will you be truly satisfied with a life well lived, or will you be a decrepit, miserable old person full of despair because you will feel cheated that life passed you by? Take action now. It's never too late. Life Explorer. To live free and enlightened, you must lose your fear of being wrong. Only those who attempt the absurd and impossible ever achieve these types of things. In days of old, the shamans and wise people would get one vision of their lives when they were kids or young adults, and that was it. They lived by it to the end of their days. They were guided more by intuition than logic. Your essential self is who you are in your pure form. It never changes. Your consciousness should never change except if you get depressed through loss of self. Even then, the genetic seed and spiritual aesthetic essence that is you is still in there, far away in unfulfilled dream and fantasy form. You can't run away from your soul. You can cover it over with all the delusions, illusions, and crap from the outside world, and in the process be quite far away from it, but it's still in there somewhere. Day by day, nothing will sustain you spiritually and aesthetically except for living for your own dignity as a human being. Find your God-given purpose to do something good with your life with whatever power there is in your soul and whatever love you feel for humanity. Nothing comes close to the natural, inherent wisdom you were born with, the blueprint that was imprinted on your soul when you were conceived. This is the best your God gave you of his or her essence. Your only job in life is to honor it, and by doing so, you honor your Creator who made you to be this way. Until you find your own inner voice and live by it, able to resist the game of the world, you will never truly be comfortable in your own skin. There is some interesting and fun stuff out there, but a wise person is always centered on their own identity. Problems are friends. They help you live an interesting life and make you better, that is, if you choose to live them out that way. Everyone's been to hell and back many times, or at least you should have been if you're a human being with the guts to go for what you believe in, come hell or high water. You must expect and accept all adversity and rejection that comes your way. Adversity reveals the real you. It should make you try harder, should bring you wisdom and ultimately make you stronger. Most of you must have heard the poem or prayer where the guy says he wished for a number of things like health, wealth, eloquence, etc., but always got the opposite, which made him work his butt off, and in the end, he says he was thankful for all the adversity because it gave him the wisdom he needed to understand his life and thrive. There are lots of biblical stories where God picks the unlikeliest character to do some big jobs that they didn't seem suited for, like Moses, who was slow of tongue, Paul, who was an angry tax collector, and others who I can't think of now, although I heard them before in a sermon, since I'm not a biblical scholar. When you have a challenge or a problem, make friends with it, embrace it, see the beauty in it, turn it around to use it to make you a strong, better person that might give you some wisdom about your life. Learn to see problems as learning experiences that could lead you on the path to enlightenment in life. Accept them as challenges and even as fun things to deal with. Problems help you to find alternative methods which may lead to qualitatively better things. I wouldn't have written this book unless I felt a need to figure my life out, which was a problem at the time. Problems are also the first step in a new invention. Every invention was created because people had problems with something, so problems can be inspiration, like the guy I read about who lost an arm, wasn't happy with the current state of prosthetics that existed, so he designed his own, which thousands of people now use. Relationships are easy. Relationships are easy. Try to love the one you're with. If you can't, at least try to tolerate them. If you can't do this, try to ignore them. If that doesn't work, separate yourself from them. Get out of there. Accept people for who they are. Nobody's perfect. Everybody you're close to will disappoint you at some point in time. It's just the way people operate. Nobody fits like a second skin to your needs and desires. If you love them, you have no choice but to accept their indiscretions within reason, not breathe a word of them or bring it up in their face and move on. I know all too well how self-centered and territorial we all are despite our upfront pretenses. Forgive and forget. Show love. There are very few soulmates and kindred spirits out there for any of us. It doesn't really matter because all you can do is show love. You can't make other people love you. Some people aren't capable of love. If you feel love, that's enough. Be loving about your life. You can't control what others think or do. Live with that sense of divine love inside of you. Try to imitate a cat. He's always following his true nature. My cat is always purring. It doesn't matter what's going on out there, the biggest storms, all that crap on the news, the local gossip. He's always got the happy purr going on inside, unfazed by the world out there. The paternalistic paradigm. The paternalistic paradigm most of us have been brainwashed by is the erroneous belief that there are certain people out there who take on the persona of father figures within the system, and we the people accept them as our leaders, wise people, and gurus because it gives us a warm, cozy feeling that there is something greater than us out there that cares and is looking out for our best interests. They act like they know what's best for us better than we know ourselves, so we listen to what they say because it's for our own good and will lead to our happiness and success as defined by them. Most of our father figures are older white guys. You rarely see a black guy or a woman take on this role as one of our wise leaders within mainstream society. They are a bunch of pompous elitist asses, but they act like they care about people and are trying to help them for their own good, when what they're really doing is trying to pump up their own massive, misguided superiority complex egos. God is the ultimate father figure. He is the device through which we are brainwashed starting at a very young age to be subservient to others who are our supposed elders, leaders, authority figures, managers, gurus, politicians, men in uniform or superiors. This paradigm that there are authoritative father figures out there who act as our leaders, experts, and role models gets ingrained into us at a young age, then we follow them without question because we've been brainwashed to be good, little clones always looking to a father figure to lead the way. Even the TV anchors are reassuring father figures, gently guiding us on what to think about with their authoritative, benevolent, all-knowing demeanors. Their body language gives away what they think of a particular story. They might snicker, grimace, or talk in a contemptuous tone to guide us into the way we should think about the issues of the day. Chapter 5. Don't stop ever. The spirit of life. Far better to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to take rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in the great twilight that knows not victory, nor defeat. Theodore Roosevelt, 1899. Van Gogh said, "Live brilliantly like the brightness of the noonday sun." Find the one or two things that you really love to do that keep you intensely naturally inspired about your life every single day. Figure out a way to earn a living from this. Pursue whatever you want for your own pleasure without letting the world brainwash you as to what constitutes pleasure. As long as it doesn't infringe on the rights of others, it's all good. Then to round it all out, if you want to fill up what's left of your hole of existential loneliness, you should have enough of an identity to attract worthy people and lovers who will like and love you for you purely, not for the image you put forth to the world made up of your job description, your car, your clothes, your title, your zip code, etc. You're only as good as you are right now today. Anything you've ever done in the past is gone and the future is an unpainted canvas, so it's all about now, living in the moment. If you don't keep actively creating your life all the time, you end up on the scrap heap of humanity. I provide the basic blueprint, namely to know your soul, know what it takes to release the natural potential energy that lives inside of you day after day to stay inspired and feeling good. But everybody's journey to enlightenment is different because we all have different souls, different things we were born with the potential to be. This potential is your blueprint. It was there when you were born, given to you by your God. Everybody has this pure essence at birth. The hard part is to actually manifest it without letting yourself get psycho-bamboozled by the world's illusions along the way. Do what you really want to do with your life. Strive for intense experiences which are your lifeblood, to release a bunch of intense, inspired, aesthetic energy because it makes you feel like you're taking your life for a pretty good ride today, right now. You as an individual are responsible for your happiness. Always be wary of the society you live in affecting the pure essence that is you. If you live in a repressive society, in order to survive you have to follow the rules. If you live in a relatively free society, you will have the opportunity to live out the person that you could be, provided you go about it intelligently and don't give in to the brainwashing forces you're surrounded by. Your soul is your base and inspiration, you have to find it and live true to it day by day. That's life stripped down to the core. If God is up there, He sees me as one of His master pupils, being myself purely, questioning everything, even His existence, trying to be the best specimen of humanity I can be based on the way He made me. All we know for sure is right here, right now, physical beings on planet Earth, so I'll take that as my only given. Stay open to the possibility of a divine dimension somewhere and dedicate at least part of my life to trying to find this divinity through my explorations of the soul. Inspiration is a sacred word. The word derives from two words, in plus spirited, meaning someone who is into the spirit of his or her life. This describes a person who is happy because he or she is consciously constantly releasing the natural potential energy in their souls they were born with. Who do you see in those momentary fantasy visions you get of yourself in your finest form, being who you feel you were created to be? Most of my inspired activities are what I call soulful pursuits. For me, they are physical, intellectual, and creative actions. Beyond this, everybody wants a bit of love and some hedonism, the pursuit of pleasure for its own sake. When you feel down, accept yourself, go easy on yourself, tread lightly, have your pity party, then crawl out of it, Get your inspiration back, fuel your mind, take action to develop yourself somehow. If you ever feel bad, volunteer at a hospice or a children's hospital for a day, then you will see reality crystal clear. Stay cool. Don't think your lot is that bad. Be happy with your life right now. The best things are free, namely the free time to enjoy the outdoors on a beautiful day without feeling any pain and being with people and pets you love. Be a healer, a helper, and a lover. That's a good code to live by. Be content with what you have now. You must always live in the moment. Wipe away the past and the future and just be happy with what's happening in your life right now. Keep it simple. Too many people complicate their lives with all manner of trivial things. Focus only on what really matters and forget about everything else. More money is not necessarily better if it eats into your free time and makes you alienated from your family. It doesn't matter what's happening in your life, you ought to be thankful for being alive, breathing air devoid of the size of your bank account. You ought to be grateful for simple things like food, water, the ability to walk. It's all about attitude. A guy was robbed and was thankful that they didn't kill him and that he wasn't that desperate that he was the robber. Most people would just be angry that they were robbed. Appreciate life. Count your blessings regardless of station, because there are still many people worse off than you on this planet who need your help more than you need your self-pity. Simplify your life right now. Go through all your material possessions and get rid of all the stuff you don't use. Eliminate most trivial pursuits. Who are you? Who are you? Pop culture clone has a naive, limited mindset attained from watching all the entertainment stuff on TV, in movies, and reading silly magazines. Wants to imitate the pop culture celebrities to be seen as cool and trendy. Capitalist clone wants to be a big-time business success. Career ambition clone wants to get to the top of the corporate ladder. Materialistic clone thinks happiness comes from acquiring consumer goods. Home decor / home improvement clone wastes endless time working on the house when the house is just a functional place to hang your head. Everything you're surrounded by is meaningless next to a constant active movement of life. Social class / status clone wants to be perceived by others as an elite, special, very important person / VIP. Patriotic clone, exaggerated love of country since all countries are artificial political entities. We are all citizens of planet Earth. Political clone, people who play the game of mainstream politics and think there's a great qualitative chasm of ideological difference between the Republicans and the Democrats, when the truth is that they are two sides of the same coin. Together they control all the power and don't want other political parties to get in on the action to disrupt their cute little oligarchy. What about the Libertarians and the Green Party? Intellectual / formal education clone, people who think that their extent of formal education or general knowledge of current events equates to wisdom or intellectual superiority, when the truth is that wisdom requires no formal schooling. It comes from discovering the voice in your soul. Religious / philosophical / self-help psychobabble clone, people who subvert their free thoughts by subscribing to one ideology or another, i.e., the latest trendy one, Kabbalah. Whatever happened to standing on your own as your God created you? Vanity clone, people obsessed with physical look, buying into all the cosmetics commercials they see, wearing fashionable clothing, eternally obsessed with losing weight, getting cosmetic surgery, exercising and tanning at the tanning salon. To my way of thinking, unless I plan to have sex with you or marry you, I don't care what you look like if there is a meeting of our minds. Besides, the truth is that most people don't give a damn about what you look like because they're too busy thinking about what they look like. Free individual, an individual who believes only in what comes from his or her soul. If there is a God, He created the most divine part of you, your essence, otherwise known as your soul, so by following it, you honor Him and do the right thing. Follow this divine presence within you, which is your true nature. Youth is the only grace period of life. When your youthful generation reaches maturity at about the age of 35 to 40 and everybody scatters to go their own way, the younger generation becomes the vogue of the world and you become just another scattered loner soul on the scrap heap of humanity put out to pasture as a generic consumer. Your magical free time of youth is over. You don't freely fit into the world anymore as a young curious person exploring life, looking for a good time and enlightenment. When I was younger and traveling around, I met people everywhere who took me into their homes and let me sleep there because I must have looked like a well-intentioned, naive young schmuck trying to learn about life by going out in the world, but now that I'm this middle-aged dude, people aren't so open to me. They probably think I'm like every other middle-aged white dude, a cynical, self-centered capitalist. The world is geared for young people and everyone else is expected to be cynical, respectable, solitary, and dull with that establishment middle-class look, so people in general will look at you and think, what's this old dude doing here? Shouldn't he be home watching TV and eating pizza like all the other middle-aged duds? Maybe he's a pervert, serial killer, or dirty old man plotting something less than honorable. There are a few exceptions to this. Places where middle-aged and older duds are welcome, like bowling alleys, legions, community centers, golf courses, jazz clubs, brothels, and expat bars, but most of these places are Dullsville. There's plenty of time to find a career and follow the standard path of life later, if ever. Chances are you have some ability inside of you that you can use to earn a living and do something honorable on your own terms without plugging into some dull career every day for the rest of your life. Do your free-spirited living now, because by the time you hit 40, you'll find that all your contemporaries have become middle-aged duds, but they'll think they're cool, successful, respectable people because they are according to the definitions of the system, and even if the young people in your neck of the woods accept you into their circle, you'll still feel like the old dude in the bunch. So do your living now while you're young and people accept you anywhere you go as a young dude or dame. Looking for what there is to see out there that's worth seeing.